She is the queen of like Lincoln Park, Parallel Park. Like, I go to like, you know, get into the car and I'm like, how the hell did she get into this? It's like a centimeter in the front, centimeter in the back.
It's a game for you guys. It's a game.
We bought this thing because it looked great, but as it turns out, it was a great big mistake. What do we do now?
Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of Buyer's Remorse. For Valentine's Day, I wanted to interview my husband because both of us have remorse, but for different reasons, for a big purchase that we made about 7 years ago. I'm gonna let him tell you a little bit more about that. But in the meantime, enjoy. And again, this is my husband, Josh.
Nice to meet everyone. So the purchase that we're talking about, it was back in 2014. It was actually our first purchase, joint purchase for a car. It was my first purchase of a new car. Everything up until that point had been pretty much a hand-me-down. My father was a mechanic, so it was like, a lot of his friends would call him up and be like, hey, I have this old like 97 Ford Taurus or something like that. You want it for $500? You fix it up and you give it to either me or my brother. So we weren't really used to paying more than like $1,000 for a car. What happened was we drove out to LA and I had a 1998 Chevy Lumina. The transmission went completely kaplunk.
The car was like 20 years old.
It was old. It was
Yeah.
spacious, but yeah, it was definitely time to get a new car.
Yeah.
So this was totally new ground for me. Like I said, I had never purchased a new car.
Yeah. We were in another state, like we never lived outside of our home states either. So.
And again, I was originally from Indiana, so the price of anything is pretty much like, I'm used to like dirt cheap prices basically.
Yeah.
But there was like a good month and a half to 2 months where we were without a car, and the first thing you learn once you get to LA is like you can't rely on public transportation. I know it's been getting better over the years, but it was pretty much like non-existent. It was pretty terrible. So we were basically like Ubering a lot for those,
if we had to go get groceries, like we'd take an Uber or a Lyft. And then me growing up in Chicago, like I always took public transit. I didn't get a driver's license until like a month or two before we drove out to LA, and
there was no way I was doing 2,000 miles by myself. So we kind of split it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I did as much, research as I possibly could, and one of the things that we decided on was like we were going to do a 3-year lease because we really didn't know like how much longer we were going to be out there. At that point, it had been 2 years.
Yeah.
A lot of people said you'll fall in love with the city after 3 years. So we were right around that time, like we'll kind of figure out if we're going to stay here or not. So the conditions that were kind of that we established were like, okay, well, we don't want to be here longer than 3 years. Let's do the 3-year lease. There are some mileage restrictions. It was about 12,000 per year, so 36,000 miles, and it was like,
And we were good, because like everywhere we went was local for the most part, and and actually we still took the bus occasionally, but it was like, just if we were going down the street. So we were smart about like just staying within their stipulations and our rules about leasing the car. And we felt good about it, like those 3 years that we had it.
Yeah, definitely. And like, we went to Honda of Hollywood, and I remember the guy that helped us out was John. And it was actually a really good experience. Like you get this idea of like he wasn't a used car salesman, but like a car salesman in general is like going to be a sleazeball, but I feel like he answered all of our questions.
Yeah.
Like there
was a pretty good connection. Like he was funny. He had a little bit of charm, but it wasn't like a creepy charm, and he wasn't super pushy. He gave us the information we needed. If we wanted to test drive, other cars, he was fine with that. Like essentially there was no pressure, but I will say like what influenced me in that whole thing was just the fact that like he was personable, and on top of that, like he and I were both new to just the car buying experience, and so John as an authority felt like, I felt like, okay, this guy's personable, I can trust him in what he's telling us about the car, and it's going to be a good car, and it is a good car.
Yeah.
But like, what do you think on your end, like what influenced you to
like,
take
so
the plunge?
when we realized, like, okay, 3 years, this is the amount of miles that we're going to drive each year. The payments were, monthly payments were around, what we wanted to pay. And I figured, like, well, if we decide, like, after 3 years, we could just return the car. If maybe we're a little bit over in mileage, we'll pay the difference, and then just get a new car once we're back in where we land, like in Illinois.
Yeah.
So I was like, it felt like kind of a relief. Like I was new to the whole like leasing, so I was committed, but not like 100%. Like one foot in the door, one foot out the door, and then over the course of those 3 years, I think we did a couple like mini road trips.
Yeah.
In those, and I was like, this is fuel efficient.
Right.
According to the website.
That's what attracted me to it as well. Was it was fuel efficient. It was small enough, but it wasn't tiny. Like it wasn't a Fiat, which we had.
Oh my god.
Took that on a road trip once. And with my brother who's like
over 6 feet,
1 or something.
Just like crunched up in the back seat. Yeah.
So it wasn't as small as a Fiat, but it wasn't as big as a Chevy Lumina. So like it was good in terms of like parking and just when you think of gas, because we're in the mountains here. Yeah. Like, yeah, it was a good car for many of the reasons of why we were in California and
And like it was a major city, so like the Lumina that I had versus the Honda Civic. The Honda Civic was, as far as length, like a foot shorter. So I mean, it makes like the world of difference when you're trying to find like a tight spot to parallel park in. So that was like, weird little things like that would totally, push you over the edge versus one car over the other.
Oh, and it had the rear like camera, which I love.
Yeah. And it's weird because I remember when he first showed us, I was like, we don't need this. I've been driving for like
and I was like, no, I need it.
And he, just like turn, like how lazy does one person have to be? But as soon as I like got into the car to do the test drive, I was like, this is like the best thing ever.
Yeah. What else attracted you to it? Was it just those like few things, or like was it the price? I know you said you did a little bit of like research.
So one of the things about like living in California is like very rarely do you feel like you're paying the price that you should be. But with the Honda Civic, like I was like, it's pricey, but it seems fair. Like the model itself, it's it's like this dark, I think gunmetal gray is what they call it. I thought it looked like nice, and like it was
I like that you remember the exact
because it sounds cool.
Name of
it's gunmetal gray, and I'm like, yeah, cool.
And then I turned around and named the car Goose.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's gunmetal gray.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I just remember after we got it, like, we pick up friends to go out to like dinner or something like that, and it's not like it was an expensive car. And like, in that city, you like turn in any direction, you're gonna run into a bunch of Honda Civics. So it's not like it was something that really like stood out, but like we got a lot of positive feedback from friends. Like, this is so nice, and we did tend to like wash it pretty frequently.
Yeah, I think we may be taking better care of it when we were leasing it, just because we didn't know if we were gonna lease to buy or if we were gonna get it back to them or trade up or whatever. So we definitely made sure that like Goose was like
prim and proper.
Yeah, Goose looked like a swan. Okay.
What happened is we fell in love with it. We never fell in love with the city we were living in, but we fell in love with the car. And the 3-year lease was coming to an end, and so at that point you have to decide, like, are you going to start a new lease, a different car, trade it in, get something different, or lease to buy, or the worst option would be just to hand it over and not have any car, and that wasn't an option. Right. But since we fell in love with it, we went towards buying it. You know?
And the reason why we didn't like go into another lease is because it was 2017? Yeah, it was 2017. Yeah. And at that point, we had been kind of talking about, like, do we want to stay in LA or do we want to move? And we didn't want to get into another lease with our car if we were in fact going to move, on top of the fact that we just really liked the car. So we went back to Honda of Hollywood. And
unfortunately, John was no longer there. But he had been quickly replaced by the typical salesman. And I understand that, like, these guys are working off commission. Like, But at the end of the day, we told him, we were here not to get a new car. We don't want to take out a new lease. Like, we've been paying down on the, this car, the principal balance for like 3 years. So
we want to keep our car.
It seemed like no matter what we told him, it was like, oh, well, you should check out this new 2017. You look real sharp in it. It's like, I don't think you're like listening to us at all. So we were about to leave because I was just like, I was over it. I think the guy like said, like, what will it take for you to drive out of here with a new 2017 Honda Civic? And I was like, nothing. We're leaving.
We were very firm on our decision.
And at that point, we didn't even bother sitting down to look over any paperwork, any numbers. It was just like,
I don't even think we test drove it or anything, right?
No, I mean, they're sharp-looking cars, but, the newer models, but, we told them exactly what we were doing and, or what our plans were. So we went to a third place, and that's where we got the best vibes, and it was in, was it Van Nuys or Valley Village?
I think it was Valley Village.
Yeah, that place, like, the guy, we told him, like, right off the bat, like, this is what we're here for.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I know he wasn't going to make much off the commission, although
he
was, like, rightfully so, like, he was trying to, like, in his position,
right,
like, tack on these little things, like,
and the nice thing is, like, he was listening, obviously, because, like, we told him exactly what we wanted, and we were in and out of there in, like, an hour.
Yeah.
Just to buy our car, which, our experience at Honda Hollywood the second time, we were in there for a while just because this guy was really trying to like push us.
Yeah, it was like the sales pitch, and it's just like, just hold on, wait, listen to us for a second. But what was nice was we were able to actually, because he started throwing out numbers, and we're like, well, we went to this other place, they gave us these numbers, this total, why don't you offer us something better? So it was like we had some hard, like hard evidence. We had something to like work with. So he was like, oh yeah, I could come down on that. So right off the bat, we were saving like just going there, like I think it was a couple like grand, So anyways, it was 2017. It was the year we were getting married. So
and I was in grad school.
And she was in grad school. We both had full-time management positions. I was doing karate. You were doing your exercise.
Yep. My sister came to live with us for a little bit too. So it was a lot going on
chaotic.
That year.
It was but it was like also at the same time we were trying to, like every $200 that could have been like, haggled in a situation like this, like, oh, well, why don't you knock this up, would have been going to wedding funds or into our savings account. But we were able to reach an agreement with a guy, and he was able to sign us over. And he said at one point it was like he showed us all the fees, and I think there was like something on there for like $150 or $200, but it was like basically like we wouldn't have to go to the DMV, they would take care of all this. And I was just like, that is fine. If anyone has been to the DMV in California, you will know, like, it is absolutely insane. To say it's hell is an overstatement, and it's not really.
It's a compliment.
It is a compliment. Like, so after we purchased it, it would have been like June 2017. The next year, 2018, we had decided, okay, well, you know what? It's time to move back. And then a series of accidents happened. So,
here,
why don't you tell
I'll step in for this part. So, the first accident happened January 2018. I was driving from work to Laurel Canyon Boulevard because that was the quickest way to get home. And, whatever, any rush hour anywhere in LA is super crowded, but I'm, on my way to get onto the canyon, and this car comes out of nowhere. It might have been a Charger. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it comes out of nowhere and it hits me in the back of the car, like the rear end, and my bumper was like cosmetically, it was like crushed in and things like that. The guy was super like, oh, I'm so sorry, and it got handled. Younger guy, just trying to like do Uber Eats or whatever. So I was like, cool. That got fixed in like a week and a half.
Very quick, very painless.
Yeah, super painless. His insurance covered it. Like, it was fine. Then, us wanting to move that year, I one morning take my sister and my old cat to fly home to Chicago, and that was a whole ordeal because they were flying Spirit Airlines, but I won't even get into that. I was on the 405 headed back home to finish packing and things like that. We were, I think, 3 weeks away from leaving LA, and I hear a little bit of commotion behind me, and I look in my rearview mirror, and I see this car like past the rearview mirror, but it doesn't hit me, and I'm like, great. And then all of a sudden I feel like in the back passenger corner of the car. Luckily it was crowded on the 405, so it wasn't like a hard hit, like I didn't spin out or anything like that. I was okay, but you know, frazzled. And so I pull over to the shoulder, I call 911, and I'm like, yes, it was a car accident 405. I tell her I'm at, I think it was like 2 stops away from my exit in North Hollywood, and the driver pulls up behind me that hit me, and he's getting out the car, and I go to the operator. I'm like, yeah, you know, it looks like everyone's okay. But when the guy gets out the car, he only has 1 leg. And I'm like, well, the guy only has 1 leg. And then I quickly realized, like, oh, wait, like that's not from the accident, obviously. So I was like, we're okay, he's fine. But yeah, like if you can send a cop out. So I think they did, but there was another accident a little bit like behind us. So I think they went to the wrong place. The tow truck showed up and neither one of us needed to tow. So I'm like, why are you here? But in the meantime, like I got super creepy vibes from this dude. He tells me that he crashed into me because I was pretty and he got distracted. And I'm like, yeah, like if you're trying to butter me up, that's not working. That's just making me more furious about this situation. And I tried to get all his information, and then he showed me some weird, it wasn't really an insurance card, but I took a picture of it, took a picture of his driver's license, all that. And then he tells me, you know, like let him know whatever I need, maybe we can handle it like out of pocket or whatever. A few days go by, I keep hitting him up, trying to get it. Never gives me the right info, and I'm just like, dude, what is going on, you know? So at some point I lost my patience, and I was just like, this piece of trash is not going to give us our stuff. Now, I had his address, but I'm not crazy, so I didn't show up on him. But
we did cross both of our minds, and, you know,
roll up there.
They say, and there's no way of really knowing, but it's like 15 to 18% of the people living there are uninsured driving around. So we're, you know, paying, and it seems like we're paying a premium for like all protective coverage, everything included. It's like just basic PDPL, and it's so expensive, but you're like really just mostly paying for all these people who are uninsured. And unfortunately, the second guy who hit us was uninsured.
Right, and I don't know if he was under the influence of like whatever medication he was taking for his leg or alcohol.
Or he was just a one-legged asshole, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean there's,
or
obviously that.
an asshole.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be one-legged, I don't know.
Well, I mean he is one-legged.
Yeah, he's an asshole. Yeah, I remember like being in that collision center in Los Angeles because we had to go there. We went through our insurance, Allstate, and they were like, okay, go to this collision center and like they'll be able to assess the damage, give you a timeline. We were about to leave in 3 weeks, maybe 2.5, and the guy said, okay, he pulled off the bumper and he saw that there was some actual like structural damage, like the frame in the back had like been pushed up just a little bit. So unfortunately, like not like our first one where it was just cosmetic, it could be in and out in a week. This, he said, it's gonna be about a month. And at that point we were like, well, we're actually driving cross country 2,000 miles, like we can't do that. And he was like, okay, maybe, you know, I guess look into a center out there. I have no idea.
Oh, and then the plates were
but there was
expiring too.
Some other really annoying stuff because our plates were about to expire, and they to get new plates for the year it was like $200, and it was like they in LA they used to give you like temp plates so you could like, but I think people kept taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
So even like a extension by like 2 weeks would have helped us out, but they didn't offer that. So I was like, I'm not paying all this money to get these plates, not even temp plates, to have, you know, to drive into Illinois and get
new plates,
Illinois plates, you know. So it's just,
I mean,
like,
it's not cheap, obviously. It literally felt like that moment in the movie where like the bomb is about to go off, and you have to like hurry up and figure out how to disarm it. And we had just like all this like stuff thrown at us. Mind you, I'm still in grad school.
Yeah.
And
we've been married less than a year, and we were like, you know,
and we're trying to just get out of California. I'm like, California's trying to keep us here.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah,
so.
and like I do remember when we purchased the car back in 2017, knowing that we were probably going to be leaving. I imagined a cross-country trip on the way back because we drove out there, so I was like, we got a fuel-efficient car, we're gonna have some fun, we're gonna stop in, you know, some states and
let's
actually
go full circle on this,
and it's gonna be fun. So like when this guy in the collision center is telling me, you know, it's gonna be over a month, and that totally altered our time frame because we both had accepted jobs in Chicago, so it was just like, this is not gonna work at all. So all of a sudden it became this like,
we had to get out of our apartment, like it was just all this stuff.
And it was like all of a sudden now we got this big purchase, and it's just like, it's more of a hindrance than anything else, because it's like, how do we get this thing physically back 2,000 miles? So we had to unfortunately ship it back on a freight semi or whatever, and it was very costly. It got back, but we did get it repaired.
And we couldn't, it's not like we could pack it either. Like we couldn't pack the car because it had weight restrictions. So we did as much as we could without pushing it. And then we had to ship everything else home, which was hundreds of dollars. And yeah, it was a total money suck.
I just remember hearing the song Hotel California, which is always in rotation anywhere. Yeah, but it's like that, and I just remember like we were driving there, and that line, it's just like, you could check out anytime you want, but you can never leave, and it was just like, we're not going to ever physically make it out of here. The remorse for it, for me, was mostly that time frame where it was like when we were trying to get out of LA, and it became like this terrible hindrance, and all of a sudden it's like, did we overpay for it? Did we make a mistake? We still have so much more money. And when they processed everything, it was like, so we had the principal paid down, but with all these processing fees, it put, you know, more money back onto it. And I was like, I made a freaking mistake. Like, I screwed up. I should have haggled the guy for more money, or you know, like to cut some costs down. And I felt like I had failed, because it's like, I should have. And I thought I'd gone in there prepared as much as I could.
You didn't fail.
But, I know, but you always want to, like, you know, haggle. Maybe, so you could say you got the best deal. There's a difference between getting screwed out of $200 and $2,000, you know. And for some reason, like, my mind went to, like, I got screwed out of so much money, too. Like, I feel like I dropped the ball there. But it was kind of temporary. Like, I felt, once we got back, once we got everything set up out here, going to the DMV out here was, like, painless. It was like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm out of here in 45 minutes? Like, what the hell is this? So it was, compared to, you know, the DMV in Cali.
well, let me remind you that, like, anything that had to do with the car was the right decision. So you did not fail me.
Okay.
You did not fail us. So we still love our car.
We do. I think it's a fantastic car, and I know that you had a little bit of remorse just recently.
Yes. So my remorse started about 4 or 5 days ago. Only because life is changing.
Big reveal.
Big reveal. But yeah, life is changing, and we spent about 30 minutes trying to install our daughter's car seat.
Well, it looks really cool. Like,
it's a great car seat. Like, I will never give it back. It's gonna be her car seat for 10 years, which is amazing. So, like, I'm good on that. But in our car, it's a tight fit. It is a tight fit. And we spent 20-30 minutes in 9-degree weather while it was snowing.
We're in an alleyway.
Trying to install this car seat. And really it quickly dawned on me that we're probably going to have to graduate cars at some point, especially if we ever have another kid. So, yeah, my remorse started to kick in, because I remember when we were looking at our 2014 Honda Civic, I was looking at it and thinking like, oh, this is a great car size-wise, because it's not too big, not too small. It's a 5-seater, 4-door car. Like, you know, we could all fit in there, no problem. But now seeing the reality of, you know, children and seeing how much space they take up, I'm quickly realizing like, okay, this car, we're probably going to end up outgrowing it within the next year or 2. So
keep it as a second car.
Yes, keep it as a second car, but it's not going to be reliable enough for our lifestyle. So,
And
that's where my remorse came in.
I think we can kind of like, you know, where I felt the remorse for the 2014 was like kind of like a learning experience. Is like, I don't think I would ever go that, even, I know we were in like a different situation, we weren't sure like if we were gonna stay in that state or not, but I would never go the route of like leasing to buy.
No.
One of the things that I really love about the car is like, so we have like less than 2 years to pay it off. And every month I get the bill and I'm like, okay, well this is what we have to pay off. And just Brittany was asking me about, you know, the remorse that I felt for this. And it's kind of like a closure. What I did was I went on to Kelley Blue Book, and they give estimates of what the car's value is. And I typed in our zip code, make and model, year of the car. It was actually more, the value of the car, the trade-in value was more than what we're paying on it. So it's like, it's nice to be validated, that monetary number, where it's just like, okay, the value is higher than what you have remaining in the principal payment. So I was like, okay. So even though we were, you know, I feel like we probably could have paid it off by now if we had purchased it in Indiana, if we had like, you know, did immediately like, you know, buy right out instead of leasing, it would have definitely paid for it. But just seeing that, it was like, okay, that's good. It's a little bit of closure. I feel good about that, you know. So. So
yeah. The other thing about our car too is that now being in Chicago, it's not the best built car for winters. Right now we have about 8 to 10 inches of snow just chilling on the street.
I just bought new tires too, and it's like when there's like an inch of ice underneath that snow, it's like renders any tire, unless it's got some chains on them, pretty much useless.
Yeah. So we're learning. We're learning that it was a great car for our lifestyles back in Los Angeles, but here it's not as
with a little one on the way.
We want it to be. So yeah, but we still love it, and I can say that for me, I would get another Honda when we do upgrade. I really like Honda. I'm loyal to Honda, so
I was telling her recently, like, I have a couple friends who work for Honda, and both of them actually drive Hondas. Yeah, so I'm on board for like minivan? Oh no.
I don't know. We'll have to talk more about it. But yeah, I will. I
Soccer mom? Are you heading that direction? Soccer dad? No.
Are you hitting me with some dad jokes right now? What's going
Maybe, I don't know.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give the product itself and the service?
So the product itself, I would say like a 9. John,
I agree.
The way he helped us, listen to us, I would definitely say like, 8.5, 9. We'll just round it up to 9. And then when we leased a purchase, that whole process, I would say about maybe like a 7.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy was nice.
I can agree with that.
But it still feels like at the end of the day, I'm like, I probably could have got it down a little bit more, and like that will never leave me. But also, like I said, we're paying the principal down. It's gonna get paid off in 2 years, and live, you learn, and on to the next car when we have to get the next car.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know the lessons, we learned them. Hard,
we'll see what happens when we get ready to buy a house. What lessons will we learn here? Well, thank you.
Definitely my pleasure.
For being a guest on Buyer's Remorse.
I only had to walk over 10 feet and sit in the chair, so you're totally welcome.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you too.